Ladies, gentlemen, and Haradrim of all ages, with the week progressing, a lot of people have reached maximum level of 60 and entered the proper endgame of Vessel of Hatred in Season 6 for Diablo 4. Whether you've been playing the game every season, or if you took a bit of a break and then came back for this one specifically, if you didn't keep up with the changes leading up to this expansion, you may be a bit confused as to what is going on currently with Ancestral Items. These now always spawn with at least one greater affix on them, which is a 50% boost to the maximum roll that the affix can normally hit. These are the only items that can hit 800 item power as a whole instead of being capped at 750, so all of the affix rolls on ancestral items just are better. Along with that, even legendary aspects have higher caps on their actual effect that they can reach in ancestral items that simply you cannot get unless you get them on ancestral, so you have to get lucky on an ancestral item drop to even have your codex be filled out, not to mention even just the build that you're using have high quality legendary aspects. These items are massive for power for a number of reasons now, that included, not to mention being the only things that can be masterworked to 12 out of 12, and while in the past ancestral items were just anything that dropped in World Tier 4 pretty much, now they are locked to Torment tiers and are relatively rare for how important they actually are to character power. That said, once you have a general build sorted out, your next main step is upgrading to ancestral items however you can. This can be a lengthy process, especially if you are searching for specific affixes on that gear, which of course most of us are. That's how a lot of builds work. And so today let's talk about the easiest ways to get more ancestrals in as little time as possible. The first one that we've talked about with a couple of other subjects this week, but it is Murmuring Opal gambling at the Purveyor of Curiosities. Murmuring Obols are really easy to generate this season, especially once you are able to do pit runs with any consistency. These are where you upgrade your paragon glyphs when you do it anyways, so they are quite important to do, especially now that legendary glyphs are a thing, but at the end of a successful pit run, you'll just get a pile of Obols that are a part of your reward. The pit does also drop some items upon completion, with regular chances to be an ancestral over a regular item, but the Obols then double up and let you target specific slots to just generate items, especially with the seasonal urn upgrade that gives it a chance to give 2 items per roll. If you specifically aim for pit tiers that you can complete in 3 minutes or less, then that means that you will get the drops at the end and the Obols for multiple items within that time frame. Not to mention the higher pit runs that you can do this with, the higher chances of the items that drop at the end of the pit run being ancestral too. So it's just a very solid method, even if the rate isn't crazy high. It's just large volume of items per time and the ability to target specific slots that you want in particular. Then we get into our next option, which does actually have increased chances of ancestral drops, and it's the brand new Kurask Undercity activity, but specifically only if you have the tributes for it. This activity as a base does not drop a whole lot on completion, but if you apply tributes and bargains to it, it can add a lot of drops, and importantly also give a large amount of control over these drops too. Not only do you have the tributes themselves, of course, which are pretty obvious with these specific ones that we are talking about here, being the ones labeled as having rewards of legendaries and ancestral legendaries, or the ones that give you uniques and ancestral uniques, and a bumped up chance of mythic uniques dropping too. These are all guaranteed to give you a nice handful of drops at the end of the Undercity run, depending on which reward tier you actually reach, with the extra bonus of the bargain system too, of course. This gives you control over what actually drops on your gear to an extent, making legendary armor drop with skill ranks, or even making amulets drop with passive ranks. And while this is still of course a fully RNG based system, this does give you a way to target something like greater affix rolls on a specific passive that you want on an ancestral amulet. And there's no other way in the game to get so precise with target farming like this. There's no other way to say, I want amulets with passive ranks and I want them to be ancestral, especially not one with as good a return rate as these tributes have. The problem with tributes then is that they are generally not the most common to actually find. Tributes come in waves, sort of, with the best method of getting them being from the Undercity itself. Actually, honestly, if you happen to find the unique treasure goblins that are in this activity, as they will give you a bunch of tributes at the end if you kill them. But other than that, it is just a generally low drop rate for tributes from finishing pretty much every other endgame activity. Things like dungeons, especially nightmare dungeons, whispers of the dead, pit runs, hordes, or even helltide chests too, all have a chance to drop tributes at the end of them, but just don't do it particularly often. So basically, these are one of the best things you can do for when you have the actual key to enter with the reward boost. Otherwise, doing Undercity without any tributes doesn't give you all that much. Outside of that, then let's talk about the best options then. The main most frequent farm then is Infernal Hordes. Specifically, it is the 6 wave cap compasses for the Infernal Hordes. Compasses now drop in 3 varieties this season: 6 waves, 8 waves, or 10 waves, and which difficulty tier that you play way when it drops doesn't actually affect this. You can get a 6-wave compass on Torment 4. For the most part, players assume that 10-wave compasses are the most valuable because you can collect the most aether in a singular run, and for things like gold farming or masterworking material farming, this makes it true. Those are the best ways to get those. More aether is simply more rewards for the activity. But hordes also have a one-time use chest at the end of each run, which costs 200 aether and gives you at least one guaranteed ancestral item, with increased chances of getting multiple of them, of course, not to mention uniques as well on top of the legendaries. Because you cannot open this chest multiple times, this means the most effective way to run hordes for ancestral items specifically is actually to do the 6-wave variants of the compasses, so it's over as quickly as possible, collect a minimum of 200 aether so you can open this ancestral chest the one time, get out, and repeat if you want as much as you want to. Past that, if you are specifically after uniques as their ancestral option, there is always a targeted ladder boss farming. It's not the most reliable to have drop, but it is a good way to target a specific item that you want upgraded, rather than just looking for large quantities of ancestrals in general. Especially because there are a lot of uniques that are sort of part of the core engines of what makes a build function, you will want to have these, you will want them upgraded to ancestral as fast as you can, and there is pretty much always a specific affix that you would prefer to have actually roll with the greater affix bonus. So choosing to target farm the specific boss that happens to drop the uniques that you want to upgrade is basically the best way that you can do this, unless you're something like a Spiritborn that is able to roll a Purveyor of Curiosities for the quarterstaffs, because there are only 2 unique quarterstaffs in the game, so it's actually easier to get unique quarterstaffs from gambling Obols than it is from the target farm boss, but that's a bit of an exception. Then the final thing worth mentioning here really is the season journey rewards and the reputation track for the season as well. Both of these have various rewards along their track that will give you guaranteed ancestral items one time, with the season journey having 3 separate caches for the last 3 chapters that give 2 ancestral legendaries and 2 ancestral uniques for each one. And while this is one time only, and it is still beholden to RNG as far as which ones that you get, which things they actually roll on as well, I got the best item that I have seen all season from one of these boxes. So they are absolutely worth grabbing and opening them up whenever you have the opportunity, and it's pretty easy to farm out the season journey or just to farm up Zakarum reputation in the background of most activities that you do in the endgame in Season 6. That pretty much covers it then, everyone. When it comes to ancestral items, they are extremely important and powerful. Yes, they have a chance of dropping any time that you get a legendary or unique to happen to drop in Torment difficulties, but with how strong they are also, of course, quite sought after, and they aren't dropping quite as frequently as you might expect. So these are all of the ways to either farm for enhanced drop rates on ancestral items, or just get some guaranteed from seasonal boxed rewards. I hope you've all enjoyed this then hopefully it helps you out in the progression of your character. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.